Welcome back to the GBGuns Armory series. As a reminder, the full review is in the pinned comment. This is meant as an addition to what's already on the main channel and on my website, giving you a little more thoughts, feels, reflections, and sort of opening it up to discussion since you've already seen the full review and have some thoughts on it. Today is a sad day. We're talking about the Adler Arms AD-9. $200 pistol, uses Beretta pattern magazines. Wanted to like it, wanted it to do well because, well, quite often I find things that end up being big. There have been quite a few guns that were shown first on GBGuns that like a year later suddenly became all the madness. And those of you that keep up on things have been able to snatch them up while they're still affordable before prices go up. Jerry Arms was a recent find. Ranger Arms was another great one. There have been a number of finds over the years. I mean, heck, even the Strebog and Arex. I showed Arex a year before anybody else did, and those who got in on it then were able to snatch them up at good prices, those introductory prices. When you see a low-priced firearm like this, sometimes it's an indicator of low quality. Sometimes it's an introductory price done on purpose to get some guns out there in circulation, get them moving, get people talking about them, things like that. I was hoping for the latter, but what I got was the former. And I think part of the problem is these Beretta mags. Unfortunately, the very thing that had me excited about it, these are Beretta 92 pattern magazines, but the Beretta 92 has a different feed angle because the barrel sits differently because it doesn't tilt like it does on a Browning action. And what ended up happening quite often, if the camera can get in there to see, probably not, is the presentation angle of the round as it's getting offered to be put up into the chamber was not sufficient to get it up this short feed ramp that they had to do because of where the magazine sits. If they had done a longer feed ramp, then when the barrel would either need to tilt a lot more, or they'd have to figure out a different height for the magazine to rest in. And there's only so much geometry you can play with there. What I found was the thing ran fine on Full Metal Jackets, but as I recall, and you'll have to check the review, every hollow point I tried choked. A lot of people said, oh, polish the feed ramp. Feed ramp's fine. As far as smoothness, it's not a friction issue. You could see the open end of the hollow point just thunk right onto the end of the feed ramp at about mid-bullet or even less of engagement. There just wasn't enough angle to present that round properly onto the feed ramp. How did this thing even make it into production and get into the populace if it's that bad? Well, I know from some of my friends who are manufacturers over in Turkey that they just don't have the same variety of ammunition available to them that we have on the US market. US is crazy for 9mm ammunition. As you've seen on the channel, we've gone as light as 50 grain, as heavy as 165 grain. And not only does the bullet weight impact what the pressure impulse is like that needs to cycle the gun, but it also, of course, impacts the overall length of the bullet. And since 9mm ammunition needs to be loaded within a certain overall length window, you end up, I mean, that window should mean that everything runs fine, but there's only so much a bullet can tuck in, and there's a certain length that a bullet needs to have. So when you've got a lightweight short projectile, it's longer in the case. When you've got a long heavy projectile, it's deeper in the case. But regardless of that specified overall length that it should be to classify as 9mm, we get to test stuff and play with different loads here in the US that other countries don't. And so when a pistol like this is developed in Turkey, they did not have, I'm assuming, the full test bed to, or full battery of tests to be able to run all the ammo through it. They got it running on probably a 124 NATO, which it ran fine for me with 124 NATO, but couldn't test anything else. The other bit that I think was kind of half-assed, pardon the language, is this optics mount. Those screw holes, you can screw in from the bottom to set an optic on top, except there's no recoil lugs. that would put all of the stress, all of the burden of holding the optic on through that shock when the slide cycles on the screws. And screws are not designed, their purpose is not to take shear force running horizontal to the clamping force that screws are intended for. So you need to have some type of other mechanism there. There is a funky detent on the top of the slide that I'm guessing maybe when they say optics ready, there's some plate that gets put on here, and that one little hole is what that plate indexes on, but it would set things very high on top of the slide. So it was, to me, apparently, or at least appears to be, kind of an afterthought. So what we have here is a C- or D level homework effort on making a product for the US market. That may not have been the original intent of Adler Arms. We can't blame them entirely, but Adler Arms LLC in Henderson, Nevada decided to import it. And I don't know if it's a matter of them being people who don't know much about firearms, they're just in the import-sell business, or people who don't care about end users, or maybe it was intended to only be a simple range gun with full metal jackets, and they forgot to tell people. I don't know, but it was unfortunately one of the great disappointments. As I'm looking at it, reminded of that trigger guard shape. They put some efforts into contours. They've got slide serrations that go over the top of the slide, good for the forward press check folks, as well as a little bit of weight reduction on the slide. But the trigger guard is like they run out of time or engineering funding. Like, no, we can't pay an engineer to finish that off and make it smile. Let's just square it. It's funny. It has nothing to do with function, but yeah, I don't usually give grades, but this is a D or a C- in the old school grading system. Sorry, I grew up before the number thing that folks use now, but could have been great, but not really. One thing that I did not do at the range, I forgot to take an actual Bren 92 magazine with me, which I didn't think was going to matter, but considering the imperfections on these magazines, which are not branded, I don't know who made them. There's a great photo in that pinned comment of some of the imperfections on these mags. Maybe it's just bad mags. I don't know. To be fair, it deserves another attempt at the range. I just simply haven't had the time for it. But there's people who could say, well, for $200, what could you expect? Well, Sky did a better job than this for less than $200, and it was made in the US. So for $200, yes, I expect a gun to be fully functional. Let me know what your thoughts are on the AD-9. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you to our Patreon supporters! GBGuns and I do 2-level. Algie, Brian P. David F. Derrick S. Jr. Donald H. RB2. 2020